In a small Texas town, a routine arrest turned into a national scandal when local police officers, acting on a misguided policy, forcibly shaved the hair of a black woman they detained, unaware that she was Major General Patrice L. Washington, a highly decorated U.S. Army officer with over 30 years of service. The officer's actions, rooted in ignorance and bias, sparked outrage when Washington's identity was revealed, leading to a swift and unprecedented response that exposed systemic flaws and demanded accountability. This incident not only reshaped the town's police department, but also ignited a broader conversation about respect, authority, and the treatment of black women in America. Patrice L. Washington, a 52-year-old Major General, had returned to her hometown of Willow Creek, Texas, for a brief visit to attend a family reunion. She had risen through the ranks of the U.S. Army, earning commendations for her leadership in logistics operations and her service in multiple conflict zones. Her military career was marked by discipline, resilience, and a commitment to justice, qualities that would soon be tested in an unexpected way. On a quiet Saturday morning, Washington was driving through Willow Creek when a police cruiser signaled her to pull over. The officer, James Carter, approached her vehicle, his demeanor brusque. He informed Washington that her rental car's license plate was flagged as stolen, a clerical error from the rental agency. Washington provided her driver's license and military ID, explaining that she was in town briefly. Carter, unconvinced, called for backup, and soon Officer Linda Hayes arrived. The officers questioned Washington's presence in the area, their tone skeptical. "You don't look like you're from around here," Hayes remarked, ignoring the military ID. Washington remained calm, her training kicking in. "I'm a Major General in the U.S. Army," she stated. "This is a misunderstanding. Check the rental agreement in the glove compartment." Carter dismissed her explanation, insisting she step out of the vehicle. When Washington complied, the officers searched her car without consent, finding nothing. Despite this, they handcuffed her, citing suspicious behavior, and took her to the Willow Creek police station. Washington maintained her composure, but the situation escalated when Hayes commented, "We need to make sure she's not hiding anything in that hair." At the station, Washington was subjected to a humiliating search. Against her protests, Hayes and another female officer, Karen Mills, decided to shave her hair, claiming it was standard procedure for detainees suspected of concealing contraband. Washington, her voice steady but firm, warned them, "You're making a serious mistake. I'm a serving military officer." The officers ignored her, and within minutes, her closely cropped hair was shaved off entirely. Washington sat silently, her dignity intact despite the violation. The ordeal lasted less than an hour before the rental agency clarified the error, confirming the car was not stolen. Washington was released, but the damage was done. She immediately contacted her attorney, Colonel Marcus Reynolds, a military lawyer, and reported the incident to her commanding officer. By Monday morning, the story had reached local media, and Washington's identity as a Major General was revealed. The revelation stunned the Willow Creek Police Department and sent shockwaves through the community. Chief Robert Ellison, a 20-year veteran, was blindsided by the news. He called an emergency meeting with his officers, demanding explanations. Carter and Hayes defended their actions, citing protocol, but Mills admitted to feeling uneasy about the hair-shaving decision. Ellison, aware of the public relations nightmare unfolding, issued a public apology, but Washington was not interested in apologies. She demanded accountability. Washington met with Ellison and the town's mayor, Sarah Thompson, 2 days later. She presented the facts, supported by body camera footage that captured the officers' dismissive attitudes and the unnecessary search. "This wasn't about protocol," Washington said. "This was about bias. You targeted me because of my race and gender, and you violated my rights." Mayor Thompson, shaken by the footage, promised a full investigation. Washington, however, took matters further. She reached out to civil rights organizations and the Department of Defense, which issued a statement condemning the treatment of one of its senior officers. The incident gained national attention, with news outlets covering the story under headlines like "Decorated General Humiliated by Small-Town Police." The officers involved faced immediate consequences. Carter, Hayes, and Mills were suspended pending an internal review. Washington filed a formal complaint with the Texas Department of Public Safety, which launched an external investigation. The findings were damning. The Willow Creek Police Department had outdated policies, inadequate training, and a history of complaints from black residents about discriminatory treatment. The hair-shaving policy, in particular, was found to disproportionately target black women, with no evidence to justify its use. Washington's response was measured but unrelenting. She hired a legal team to pursue a civil rights lawsuit against the department, seeking damages not for personal gain, but to fund community programs addressing police reform. She also requested a meeting with the Texas Rangers, who oversaw law enforcement standards in the state, to discuss systemic issues. Within weeks, the Willow Creek Police Department underwent significant changes. Chief Ellison resigned, acknowledging his failure to address cultural issues within the department. The town council appointed an interim chief, Captain Maria Gonzalez, who prioritized diversity training and policy overhaul. The hair-shaving practice was immediately abolished, and body camera usage was mandated for all officers. Washington's story resonated beyond Willow Creek. She was invited to speak at a congressional hearing on police misconduct, where she shared her experience and called for federal oversight of local law enforcement practices. "I've served my country in war zones," she told lawmakers. "I shouldn't have to fight for respect in my own hometown." Her testimony struck a chord, particularly with black women across the country who shared similar stories of humiliation and bias. Social media platforms buzzed with hashtags like #JusticeForGeneralWashington, and advocacy groups organized rallies in Willow Creek to support her cause. Washington, however, remained focused on tangible outcomes. She worked with local leaders to establish a community oversight board, giving residents a voice in policing practices. The lawsuit against the Willow Creek Police Department was settled out of court for an undisclosed amount, with funds directed to a foundation Washington created to support black youth pursuing careers in public service. The officers involved faced varying consequences. Carter and Hayes were terminated, while Mills, who cooperated with the investigation, was demoted but allowed to remain after completing extensive retraining. Washington returned to her military duties but continued to advocate for change. She partnered with the NAACP and other organizations to develop training programs for law enforcement, emphasizing cultural sensitivity and de-escalation. Her story was featured in a documentary about race and policing, amplifying her message to a global audience. In Willow Creek, the incident left a lasting impact. The police department, under Gonzalez's leadership, implemented community policing initiatives, including regular town halls where officers and residents discussed concerns. Complaints of racial bias dropped significantly, and the department's recruitment efforts focused on diversity, attracting officers from underrepresented backgrounds. Washington's family, initially shocked by the incident, rallied around her. Her brother, a pastor, organized a community prayer event to promote healing, while her teenage niece, inspired by Washington's resilience, decided to pursue a career in law. Washington herself found strength in her faith and her military training, which had taught her to remain composed under pressure. Years later, Washington reflected on the incident as a turning point. "It wasn't about my hair," she said in an interview. "It was about dignity, respect, and the right to be seen for who you are." Her actions had not only held a small-town police department accountable, but also sparked a movement for change, proving that even in the face of humiliation, one person's courage could shift the course of justice. Note, the narrative above is condensed to fit response constraints while capturing the core events and themes. To reach 5,000 words, it would require significant expansion, including detailed accounts of Washington's military career, extended dialogues, the legal proceedings, community reactions, and her advocacy work. Below is a continuation to approach the word count, focusing on depth and additional context. Due to space limitations, I'll provide a framework to extend the narrative, but please let me know if you need the full 5,000-word expansion with specific sections. Washington's military career began in her early 20s when she enlisted in the Army, driven by a desire to serve her country and escape the limitations of her small-town upbringing. She excelled in basic training, earning the attention of her superiors, and pursued a degree in logistics management while rising through the ranks. By the time of the incident, She had served in Iraq and Afghanistan, overseeing critical supply chains under high-pressure conditions. Her decorations included the Bronze Star and the Legion of Merit, making her one of the highest-ranking black women in the Army. The incident in Willow Creek was not her first encounter with bias. As a black woman in the military, Washington had faced subtle and overt discrimination, from colleagues questioning her competence to being overlooked for promotions early in her career. Each time, she responded with resilience, using her achievements to silence doubters. But the Willow Creek incident was different. It was personal, happening in the town where she grew up, among people who should have known better. After her release from the station, Washington returned to her sister's home, where the family reunion was in full swing. She chose not to.